Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I'm doing an Ask the Nick live because, well, why not? It's a little earlier than usual. It's about 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time here in the US, so hopefully some of the Europeans who are always dealing with these real late will be able to get in on it. And the theme today is, well, just ask the Nick things. I guess that's always the theme. But if you got questions, feel free to ask them there. And as always, though, realize that questions are going in a little tiny stream on the side of my screen here. And so, I'm not going to see every question as it goes by. And if I'm in the middle of something else, so feel free to keep asking, although please try not to spam things too much. But I'll start off with a question that I got long ago. I still have Ask the Nick questions back from when I was doing regular Ask the Nick videos. And this is a great question by a guy named Saud, who's a longtime fan, and he asks, Nick, when you designate an item as a gem, is there any relativity between gems at the various levels and price points? By that, he says, when you say a Delica is a gem, do you really mean that it's a gem for $65? Or are you literally stating that it is just as nice as a $600+ Shirogorov Neon or Grimsmo Rask, and I consider them to be peers? That's a really excellent question, and that gets to kind of the heart of the subjectivity of reviewing. The Spyderco Delica is absolutely a gem. The Grimsmo Rask is also a gem, as is the Sleesh Bowie, but they're very different knives. And there is absolutely some influence of price here. For instance, if they were to make the Spyderco Delica and they were to sell it for $150, this would not be a gem. The steel simply would not be acceptable at that price point, 100%. And similarly, if they were to push the Grimsmo here up to, $1,200, where they are selling right now in the secondary market because the world is insane, this would not be a gem at $1,200 or $1,500 as it is configured. If we were asking that kind of money, actually, rather than just on the crazy secondary market, that would be overpriced. They would need to change some things. They'd probably want to upgrade the steel. They'd need a sharpening choil, although they do anyways. And so at every level, gem is an interplay between price and otherwise. The North Arm Knives Sky High is a great example of that. This little guy right here. This is a knife that is got an incredible action. It's a great knife. And, that action is great, but the thing that made this so incredible and that made this a really shining freaking gem is the fact that you're able to get this kind of action as well as a great blade of a good steel that's done well for a very, very inexpensive price relative to the other options. And so, no, it's not quite the same thing to say that the Delica, because it is a gem, as is the Rask here, that they are the same thing, that they are equal, that they are peers, that they are just as good. No, clearly that's not the case. But it is very much saying that they bring me the same amount of joy, because that really, to me, is what gem status is. It's not a question so much of the gear, but my reaction to the gear. And this is why you should consider my reviews, as everybody's reviews, to be very subjective. I am not claiming to be an objective reality sort of thing here. There are knives that I think of absolutely, or other pieces of gear that are absolutely going to be gems for somebody else, but that really aren't for me. Where I handle them, I'm just like, this bugs the crap out of me, but somebody else would really fall in love with this. And so always think about gem as being something that says something about my particular relationship, emotional and otherwise, to a piece of gear rather than some objective measure of, the gear itself. So there you go. That's a great question there, Saudavi, and I'm really super sorry that it's taken me so long to get to that question. It's a really great one. Let's see here. Peter Pavlovic, and I'm jumping into viewer questions here, so feel free to go in there. Aren't you tired of so many knives that are so similar in styling? Where's the innovation? Peter, that's a great point, and actually it's a point that I addressed very recently in my in the Knife Gripe series. If you're not aware of this, over on knifenews.com, I have a series of videos where I just complain about knives, as opposed to on YouTube, where I have a series of videos where I just complain about knives. I say nice things too. But anyways, I have made an early gripe that was talking about the fact that there are so few weird knives, so few knives that are just genuinely like out of freaking left field. And then recently I talked about the fact that so many modern high-end knives are flipper frame locks. And they're great, but come on, guys. We need to be a little bit more diverse. And so that's absolutely bothering me. And along with a bunch of other things. So check out that Knife Gripes video there. Mark Misore says, 0 blade rattle on the Ska High God. Yeah, that's a great thing, Mark, because my Ska High has a little bit of back and forth rattling to it. But the thing is, a lot of people have been getting theirs since that review. Apparently, a lot of people took that review as a good reason to buy one, which, frankly, they should. It's a great knife to buy. And so far, I'm hearing universally nice things about it, which is a real. It's absolutely great to hear that. I'm always terrified that when a maker gets a sudden influx of orders, and apparently they did after my review, with great power comes great responsibility. But anyways, that they would, that a maker who gets a sudden influx would lower their standards to ship quickly. And they don't appear to have done that over at North Arm, and that's just, God, they've been handling that with integrity. So I love that very much. So yeah, great question there. Well, more comment or anything like that. Let's see here. KO asks, if you get a knife for use purposes only, do you prefer carbon fiber or G10, which can get more beaten up? So that's a great question there, KO. The thing is, if I'm buying a knife to be a user, by and large, well, my definition of user is going to be very different than some people's. If you are a person who is, like, honestly beating the holy living crap out of your gear, then you may want something very different in life. You may want something that is, a big, beefy chunks of metal, or something like that, and you'll pay a price in weight and whatnot. For me personally, if I just want a user, I have zero problem with something like a plastic or FRN sort of handle, or, G10 is fine too. There are a lot of great materials out there, but for my kind of use, frankly, the handles don't distinguish themselves so well, except in functional purpose. So, like, your FRN handles, particularly with this kind of a style, is going to be a lot more grippy. And similarly, grippy G10, like on this little Cold Steel MIDI Lawman, which thanks very much to my viewer, JourneyWin Junk, on Instagram for sending this guy along, taking a look. But this kind of grippy G10 can be a really great thing to keep this guy in your hand, along with these very aggressive finger slots, grooves, whatever. So, material isn't as crucial to me in my everyday life, but it may be to other people. I've heard people who live in cold climates say that they hate titanium knives because they get very, very cold as a result. And so, maybe FRN is, well, although the coldness might be a problem there, they might prefer a G10 as something else. Great question. Corky asks, where is the Z Hunter? Corky, I am so sorry about that. How dare I? Here, we'll go ahead and pop the Z down here in the bottom there. Let's see here. Kyle Keaton-Liside asks, with a $500 budget, what quartz watch would I recommend? Kyle, that's a great question. And I'm always happy to do recommendations within kind of specific realms here in these Ask the Nicks, because it's a lot easier. It's nice to get to them. So look, there are a couple of really great options there. The Casio Oceanus is a great, great quartz watch that comes in at about $500, depending on where you want to get it. And it's radio control. It's got a bunch of good stuff. The other one is right on my desk over here. It's this guy. This is a Citizen Atessa. This is a Japanese domestic market only sort of watch. But the thing is, you can get them online, and it's a little bit less expensive than the Casio, but it's also a little dressier, a little less toy-like. It is also radio control, although the radio control isn't as strong. It doesn't pick up the signal as reliably. And so this is another great option, though. Another big one that I'm going to recommend is the Citizen Signature Diver. I have a review of that guy up. That was a great watch, and in some ways, if I had to just, if somebody said, Nick, okay, you're losing the Omega, you're done, you're only getting one watch, that's not a bad place for me to end up. I liked that watch a whole bunch, and there was a whole lot of good there. A couple of little frustrations, watch the review, but yeah. So that's a great question there. Oliver Evans asks, I can't find a good left-handed budget knife. I need your help, Nick. So, Oliver, unfortunately, I am not a southpaw. This hand over here is largely vestigial. I can do a couple of things with it. I can manipulate half of a keyboard with my left hand. That's really about its set of limits here. Sorry, lefty. And so I'm not a great person to talk to about that. But what I would recommend, if you're thinking budget lefty knives, think about backlocks and think about triad locks and power locks and things like that. Because a good backlock knife, like your Spyderco Delica, which is absolutely the place I'm going to send you, or maybe the Endura, is a great, great option there. Other things, actually Cold Steel is very good for doing a lot of ambidextrous sorts of knives. This guy is the Cold Steel Fin Wolf. which I haven't really handled much at all. I just picked this up from the post office, and again, thank you to Journeywood Junk on the Insta for showing this little guy off, buddy Josh. But anyways, this is another decent option, although actually, the Ultimate Hunter is another decent budget option. The Code 4, I haven't spent enough time with this guy to recommend it, but Cold Steel is another company to think about if you're looking for something lefty, because the Triad lock is a very lefty-friendly sort of lock. So that's a really great. The other option, of course, are axis locks, because axis locks are inherently ambi, because, well, you can manipulate them just as well with the other hand. You swap the clip over, you're good to go. So, in general, for a lefty knife, you're very, very hard-pressed to find a lefty frame lock or liner lock in that kind of price range. But back locks, there's a lot of good there. And axis locks, keep an eye out for that kind of thing. I think that's your better approach there. So there you go. Mac is asking Nick, Giant Mouse GM3 or Booz Blade Smoke? Here is a Smoke. Well, actually, is the prototype, but still, it works. That's a really great question. They're very, very different knives in a lot of ways. The GM3, and I haven't done my full review of the GM3 yet. I've been carrying it a lot. I think I'm close to a conclusion. For me personally, I think the Booz is a little bit more compelling. But for a couple of reasons. The big one being that it's lacking the fundamental flaw of the GM3, which is the ugliest part of this knife is that the blade is very close to the edge in the back there, and it's also very close to the top right here. So this is a knife that I am very, very mildly scared of, because I know that I can cut myself on this knife if I go at it the wrong way. Whereas with the Booz, that's just not a concern for me. The other big difference is price. This guy's $325 and this guy's $200. That's another big difference. But they're both very nice to carry. They both have great actions. The Giant Mouse has a big edge on steel. This guy's S35 VN. Well, it's well done and whatnot, but this guy's M390. They're both nice knives, but for me personally, if I could only keep one, I would absolutely be keeping the Booz, and indeed, I'm going to be selling the GM3 when I'm finished with my review, so I don't think it's going to stick around. It's a very nice knife, but not necessarily. Nice knife isn't enough for me these days. Let's see here. Chris H. asks for my thoughts on Wii knives. So, Wii Knives is a Chinese company. They actually made the Boost Blade Smoke, as well as... Do I have any other Wii knives around? I'm getting some, actually. I am getting one of the very first knives that Wii Knives has made in production with Torx screws on it. Hallelujah! Yeah, it's happening! But anyways, I'm getting one of the very first Torx Wii Knives coming into the States here soon, and I'll be doing a review of that. But Wii is a great knife-making company, except for the damn screws. Like, if you take that issue aside, if Wii Knives were to move universally to Torx tomorrow, they would be one of the hottest knife. Well, they are still already one of the hottest knife companies out there. They're doing a lot of great mid-tech work for a lot of people, production for it. I mean, they are a great company, and ZT and whatnot should absolutely be scared. The moment Wii gets their screws sorted, they are going to be huge competition for everybody. Some of the in-house designs aren't to everybody's taste, but especially when they're making other people's work, it's incredible. So that's a great question. Mateo Quintana asks, does VG10 rust? Yes, absolutely. VG10 is not the rustiest steel out there, but the thing to remember is that stainless steel means stainless. It's not the case that any steel, well, okay, H1 is gonna not rust because it's chemically unable to. But any steel is going to rust if you put it in the wrong conditions. It's just really a question of how likely that is. A steel like D2 is going to be much more likely to rust a little bit than a steel like XHP, but XHP will rust more readily than M390, and M390 a little more than, I think, ABL, or certainly LC200. Every steel has the ability to rust. Maximet right here is, oh boy, is that ready to rust. But nonetheless, so it's always a continuum. And so if you really, truly need to leave something in the bottom of your boat, hey, thank you, cicada, whatever the hell you are out there being loud. Sorry about that, guys. Window needs to be open for heat purposes. But nonetheless, damn cicada interrupted me. Anyways, yeah, if you need something that is absolutely rust-resistant, VG10 is not your steel. Great question there. Infinite Enzo asks, does the Boca Lancer work as a front flipper? I've been thinking about picking that one up, and it would be an added bonus. Great question there. Yes, kind of. I mean, you can pop it out like a front flipper. The detent is not perfect for it, but you know what? It works more often than not, and you know, overall, that does happen. I found myself as I'm using it and carrying it, because I'm getting ready to write my review of this guy, maybe even this evening. You know, I prefer using it as a non-front flipper, but that is absolutely an option that you have with this little guy. So that's a great question. But there you go. David B. asks, Nick Shabazz, have you ever thought about reviewing yourself? That's a level of brutal self-evaluation that I don't even know that would be interesting to other people. I could absolutely do it, and if in many ways I am my own harshest critic. I do not consider myself to be a gem. But that said, you know, I'm working on some things, and I'm always trying to move things out of the ugly column and at least into bad, if not good, or at least get rid of them. So, I mean, it's an ongoing process, but I don't know that you guys need to hear about my daddy issues on the channel. I mean, let's just be real here. But let's face it, I mean, I got enough daddy issues. I should probably be an exotic dancer. So, you know, that's not something I need to air all the dirty laundry to. Oh, you're a gem to me, somebody says. That's great. Thank you. Burt Reynolds' mustache is giving Nick Shabazz facts along the lines of Chuck Norris facts. Like, Nick, is it true that your hands are impervious to knife cuts? Nope, that is not true at all. I have cut my thumb pretty badly on that Utzler Custom, which had the blade way too close to the inside of the thing, kind of like on this little guy right here, where it right up in the caught there. I have absolutely had a ZT give my thumb a little love tap. Actually, where are you? This little jackass right here. Yeah. I've been cut before. I have been cut before. I haven't been cut that bad, but it's absolutely been there. Sooner or later, as a knife reviewer, I know I've got stitches coming. So I keep first aid kits around and whatnot, but hasn't happened yet. Let's put it that way. Let's see here. Let's see. Tony Hutton, what's your prediction for the way the knife market will go over the next 12 months? Wow, I am not a psychic man. Not brilliant or psychic. Over the next 12 months. I don't know that I can answer that. I mean, there are some patterns that I'm noticing that I think are ongoing. Production is really ratcheting up higher and higher, and so I think a lot of custom makers are going to have a really bad time coming up here soon. The people who have been making custom knives that are really not great, the people who make customs that are worse than production knives, I think are going to be falling away. Custom knife fever in many ways appears to be breaking for a lot of people, and a lot of people are taking a lot of baths in it. And so I think there are going to be a lot of folks leaving that market, and it'll leave behind the masters, if you will, the people who are really, really freaking good at it. So I'm hoping... In some ways, I'm hoping that'll happen, but that's kind of my closest to a prediction I have coming up here soon. The other thing I'll say is that nobody is invincible. There are major brands that have been making missteps lately, and I've been seeing people where it's like, okay, there could be stars fading here. And so I want to very highly caution major brands not to sit and rest on their laurels. If you let, for instance, quality control go, if you let things go out of tolerance, if you give up on what made your brand originally special, there is too much competition to be able to sit back and rest on, well, I used to have a good name, because people will find out and people will not pay $500 for a knife that's not so incredible. So that's a really great... It's a really great question. I wish I had a better answer for you, but that's kind of where I land with it. Very, very good question. Let's see here. G. Montaguck asks, is Greg Medford a master? So I was talking about master custom knife makers. Look, so I've reviewed a couple of Medford knives in the past. I've not been a fan, and, you know, he is a person whose definition of knife diverges rather sharply from mine. That said, I actually had a very interesting conversation with Greg Medford on Facebook Messenger, of all places, in which he was absolutely a stand-up gentleman. And I feel like, you know, what I had at one point in time interpreted for just purely cynical kind of, you know, screw it, I'll make it and they'll buy it. You know, he's a lot more earnest than I think I expected. And so in that level, I've grown to respect the guy. And he's also said to me, Yeah, I can share this. He's also said to me that he's got some new stuff coming that's going to be much more up my alley, that might actually cut. In fact, a buddy of mine had got a micro... No, oh, what is it? It's not the Micro Praetorian, it's... Micro Marauder, that apparently is actually a cutting tool. And I've been open to check one of those guys out. So, anyways, I'm looking actually forward to Shot to see how he's doing in the future. Because I get the impression that he sees some of the same faults that I've seen in his work and is kind of addressing those. The other thing I'll say is, although I gave him total heck for the Praetorian and he deserved every bit of it, and the Marauder, absolutely price-wise, but the thing is, there was a major increase, and so if he continues to increase, I can see him doing well. But if not, I don't know, we'll find out. So, that's a very interesting thing. Yeah. What other questions are out here? Mara Mavidio asks, since I don't like Gonzo knives, do I have an opinion on Gonzo multi-tools? Look, Gonzo is a company that I just don't spend much time on because so little of what they do is original. Gonzo is, by and large, they make homages. Gonzo is a lot like, who does this in the watch world? There are companies that do nothing but repeatedly make copies of the Rolex Submariner, things like that. And if you look at Gonzo's lineup, almost every damn thing they make, sorry, you guys, almost every damn thing they make is the same as, Invicta's one of them, although they at least make some modifications. Everything they do is based on something else. The couple of times that I've got an Invicta, or not an Invicta, that I've seen a Gonzo and thought, oh, that's a new design, somebody just highlights, oh no, that's based on this obscure Protec, or something like that. And that hurts. I mean, and so I've not given them the time of day, really, and I don't think I will. That's probably not fair, but at the same time, there are so many knives coming out every day that I could spend, every Chinese micro brand, every, all the Kevin Johns of the world, although that's getting to cloning and whatnot. I could spend time there, but with so many great companies that are doing original stuff coming out, I don't feel the need to go there. And so that applies to the knives and the multi-tools. So, let's see. Some guy with a name that's unpronounceable says, Nick, I'm trying to conceal 2 Cold Steel XL Espadas. I'm having difficulty walking. What should I do? So, you should actually listen to Lynn Thompson, who is the CEO of Cold Steel, who I met at Blade Show, and who at Blade Show had an Espada XL tucked into his belt and a Cold Steel tie light tucked into his belt on the other side. So it was kind of down the front of his pant legs, I guess, and it worked out nicely for him. And for dramatic effect, the guy was able to produce from his pants I think like 4 different huge Mal Ninja knives, which was a really impressive showing. That cemented that I understood Cold Steel when I reviewed the Espada. Lynn Thompson appears to be, all of my other objections about his legal practices, business, whatever, Lynn Thompson appears to embody that same spirit of, holy crap, check this out, this thing's huge and ridiculous. And so, at that level, shine on, you crazy freaking diamond. And so if you want to carry 2 Espada XLs, I don't recommend it, but that's probably the way you do it because that's how he did it. And he is probably the expert. So let's see. Wheelgun Rambo asks, ZT-0920, when are you reviewing it? In the past. I have reviewed that knife. It has not gone live yet, obviously, but it's probably, actually, that one's probably going to come relatively soon. This is a newer release. There's a lot of interest, and I like it very much. I'm not going to spoil it too much. I like that knife a lot. I think it's one of the best things ZT's done in a while. So, yeah. Steve Rasmussen asks, Steel Will Modus, any interest? Yeah, Steel Will has impressed me sufficiently with the cut jack that I'm looking at some more of that, and a couple of people have been asking about that. I'm actually holding off on the review because a buddy of mine, Scott, is sending me, I believe Scott, yeah, is sending me an M390 version in the 3-inch. And so I'll be able to compare kind of do both comparisons, both 3.5 versus 3-inch, as well as the D2 versus M390. That's super generous of him, and I'm sending it back to him, by the way. But, so that'll make that review a lot better. But this has impressed me enough that I'm absolutely interested in looking at more Steel Will. So, that's a great question there. Jim Ping is asking what shampoo I use. Is this about to devolve into boxes of briefs? Because, yeah, that's getting personal there, buddy. But, yeah. Let's see here. Big Slick. If I were to deploy to Afghanistan tomorrow, what blade would I take? Okay. We're going to just completely put aside the question of whether I am fit to deploy roughly anywhere. I mean, hell, if I were to deploy to Toledo tomorrow, I don't think I'd be qualified for it. But if we put that aside entirely, there were a lot of really good, decent knives that are, I think, well suited to that. I'm not in the military. I have never known. I mean, that's a world that is completely unfamiliar to me. But one really common option is the Benchmade Damas, either the fixed blade or the folder. It's incredibly beefy. It's pretty much bomb-proof. Well, I don't know that. I've not tested that particularly, but that's a really good choice, and it's also not super expensive because, you don't necessarily need, and you'd probably want to avoid things with bearings, which take a lot of my favorites off the table. I mean, hell, the cut jack's not a terrible option because it's on washers, but it's flipper and whatnot, and there are all kinds of other military blades. I am not military, and so you're probably going to want to make sure that you check that kind of question with somebody who's actually, aware of these sorts of things. Let's see here. New Ohio-Michigan border war. Yes, indeed. Look, actually, I would be very happy. This is completely beside the point. So I live not far from Detroit, and I will often go down to Toledo to visit friends down there. And the thing is, as you drive that drive, and it's like 45 minutes or so, there is a certain point on the road where you cross into Ohio, and suddenly the roads stop sucking. It's like suddenly you go from Michigan roads to it's just smooth sailing. And so at a very real level, I would very happily see, 30 miles of that road to Ohio just so that they would maintain it and do it worth a damn. So that's completely beside the point. Michigan roads are absolutely not a gem. I have never been to a state with worse roads than Michigan, and that's saying something. Hell, I was in the freaking middle of South Africa, driving on highways there, and the roads were infinitely better than Michigan. It is sad. The birthplace of the freaking automobile, and what do we have? Potholes. Oh, potholes. So yeah, that's a great question there. Ohio has 2 seasons, winter and construction. Yeah, unfortunately, Michigan too. Ay. Let's see here. Everybody's now chiming in on what the worst roads in the U.S. are. All I know are the parts I've been in, and Michigan, unfortunately, wins to me. Does Michigan need a Trump wall to keep the Canadians out? Every Canadian I've interacted with has been very, very kind to me, so I have zero reason to be anti-immigrant in that way, but nice. Let's see here. Getting more Nick Shabazz. Hey, you're from Toledo. Hey, Terry, good to see you. Couple of too soon jokes out there. Sir Galeth is asking about liner and frame locks being less prevalent. Watch my latest knife gripe. I actually addressed that very directly. But it's a great question. And yeah, I do believe that. I have another Ask the Nick video in which I tell a story about Canadian cheese smugglers. Maybe that was a breakdown. Either way, I've met cheese smugglers. They were very kind people. The best smugglers yet I've dealt with. But yeah, that's the extent of my Canadian criminality experience. But, may it stay that way. KC Gray Knives. I actually, if you watch my Blade Show video, that's Nick Riggy asking that. KC Gray Knives, I believe, if I'm not misremembering, were among the people who really impressed me at Blade. Yeah, I think it was KC Gray. A lot of his stuff was really nice, and as far as custom makers go, he seemed to be ahead of the pack. So that was very, very nice. Cheese smuggling by Flathead Lake, indeed. How's Maximate? Very good. So I had a Maximate native that had bad steel originally, but they sent me a new one, and this one is incredible. Like, I got a big box, like a huge freaking box for a big sheet of Kaizen foam, like 4 foot by 3 foot by 2 inches deep. Something like that. And I broke it down with this, and not like broke it down, I tore this guy into little tiny strips. And I cut with this guy to the extent where the knife became very hot to the touch. Like, just mercilessly, I'm sweating like a freaking pig, trying to dull this knife, and it is just as sharp as the day I got it. Maximate is really impressive steel, and to me, it feels, frankly, a little bit better than M4. And M4 was one of my very favorites, so I would very much like to see more Maximate around, and I think it could very much fill that same niche that M4 does. I think M4 is a little tougher, but maybe I'm making that up entirely. Something to keep in mind there. What are my thoughts on the Spyderco Assist? I have not actually handled that little guy, but it's always something I'm interested in. There are so many pieces of gear out there, knives, watches, whatever, that, I can handle a tiny fraction of them. So it's always a little bit, I wish that I could show off more stuff, see more stuff, review more stuff, but there are only so many hours in the day, and alas, I'm doing my best over here, guys. Spyderco Shaman looks nice, says Lionel Mox. Yeah, I think I can talk about that. That one's been officially announced. Yeah, I handled that guy Blade Show, and it was really, really nice. Look, it's probably not going to stick around in my life, but in many ways, the Spyderco Shaman feels to me like a mega native. It's like somebody took the basic idea of the native and just made this beefy, burly bastard, and I kind of loved it. Again, not in the sense that it makes sense in my world, but I do. Like, okay, a Shaman Maximate Sprint. Oh my god, yes. I would take that so much. That'd be fun. Sam Lunn asks, what other knives should I consider before you pull the trigger on a Benchmade grip? Check my gems playlist. Everything in there is pretty great. I mean, the Benchmade grip is fine, but consider things like your Spyderco Delica. I mean, that's always a great option. For the price of the grip, $90, there are a lot of great options out there, and I can't, specifically point you at any one of them. It depends on your specific needs. So, great question. Robert Tang asks, Nick, am I a millionaire? I wish. Oh, my God, no. No, I'm not even 100,000 there. I'm not even like a 50. No. I am not remotely a millionaire, unfortunately. The way that I'm able to pick up on these kinds of higher end knives is that I keep my collection small. This is a sizable proportion. Well, actually, some of these guys aren't part of my permanent collection. But, this is a sizable portion of my knife collection right here. And, my watch collection is this and two others. That's it. And the other two are both, like $400 combined. So, I have more money, and I'm a very lucky man. I don't want to put that aside, but, or I don't want to, deny that fact, but a lot of the way I'm able to do these reviews is by people sending me gear to loan, and then by, Patreon patrons who allow me to take baths that I couldn't otherwise, because if I didn't have the patrons who are helping me to cover some of these losses, I wouldn't be able to do this, flat out. And so, that they've made that to be, a much more possible thing. Well, let me be more fair there. I wouldn't be able to do it with the same regularity and consistency, and I wouldn't be able to check out everything I want to. REW asks, some buck knives are not bad. Nick, can you mention a buck that doesn't suck? So REW is actually, he is the guy who designed my new logo, by the way. If you go to nickshabazz.com, you'll see my new logo up there at the top. It's also my channel logo and whatnot. But nonetheless, and he did a great freaking job of it. I am in love with that logo. It is just excellent. And so I'm absolutely loving it. Anyways, he's talked about bucks that don't suck, and sure, the big one that comes to mind immediately for me, the Buck 110 is not a knife that I love for everyday carry, but it's a knife that has become such a standard that it's hard to say that it sucks. I mean, it is a fine knife for a particular set of uses. So you should consider that, and the Buck Marksman is the other one that really doesn't suck at all. I'm a big fan of it, and I got a review of a limited edition one coming up soon, which actually I'm not as big a fan of there. So, yeah, that's a great question there. Mike P. asks, any more booze front flippers in the works? He's doing another run of the smoke. But aside from that, I can't really, I don't know, Dr. Booze, not the guy. Cognus Thorn, why did you change logos? You missed the cucumber. Oh, don't worry, the Z-Hunter's not going away. The thing is, I wanted to brand in a way that doesn't involve any one company's gear. Even if it is the Z-Hunter, this is actually a knife that's made by somebody. And they could, in theory, object to that. And frankly, although they've probably sold more of those to me than anybody else, which is disappointing and disconcerting. I mean, seriously, guys, once you receive a box filled with like 35 Z Hunters, it's just like, oh my god, what am I doing? But anyways, so I wanted to move away from that and get to something as well that is more embracing of the fact that I don't just do knife reviews. I mean, yeah, a lot of what I talk about are knives, and by frequency, absolutely, this is a knife review channel, but the thing is, I also do love doing watches and pens and other gear, and so I want to be able to move away from knives, I want to be able to move away in my official branding, so that way, you know, if a watch guy wants to follow my channel, they're not thinking like, why the heck does this guy have a gas station? I don't know, maybe it's crazy, and especially with YouTube doing monetization games, there's some benefit to not being a knife channel only, and being a little bit more official in that sense has some benefits there. So, Carlo Seriani asks, why does everybody think you're weird loving knives? Carlo, that's an unfortunate aspect of modern society. Look, the way I put it to people who are curious about that is that there are a couple of good answers, and that's a really great question, actually. Like, if somebody says, you know, Nick, you've got like 50 knives, that's really weird. Like, yeah. At one level, like, yeah, it's a little strange, sure. But the way you can generally put it is in a couple of things. I really like tools. And, you know, not only am I interested in, you know, having different tools, but I want a really high-quality sort of thing. And so, in my case, as a reviewer, I've got a nice excuse. I got 50 knives because I'm reviewing 50 knives. But, you know, just putting it as I spend a lot of time thinking about, because I spend a lot of time thinking about my other tools. And if you put it in the kind of context of some people collect high-end pens, some people, you know, wear a high-end watch, some idiots get into both watches and knives, which is a bad financial decision. But that can often get people past. The other way to put it to people is it's man jewelry. And as I know a lot of people don't like thinking about it that way, but it absolutely is. This knife right here. This is a great knife. I freaking love this knife, but the thing is, considering that this knife, which is, you know, $700 or so, and this knife, which is $70 or so, do the same damn thing, you're really hard-pressed to call it anything else. And so that's another way that people can think about it. Like, men don't get to accessorize in the classical sense. We don't have purses, we don't have... And so we, you know, get a watch or a knife or something like that. Makes it a little bit easier there. And sorry about that, my stool is squeaking, stool is squeaking sounds like a bad thing too, but no, it's not like that. I'm sitting on a stool. So, holy crap, that's a lot of question. What makes a people-friendly knife, in my opinion, asks Sir Galath? There are a couple of things there. One of the big ones is size. I mean, no matter what it looks like, you are not going to be able to convince most people that, say, this little guy right here is going to be as unweapony, unscary as this little guy right here. It is simply a fact of life that big knives are viewed as being more scary by many, many people. That's silly, but it is what it is. And so size matters in that way, and this time in the opposite direction. If you want to make something less people-friendly, or more people-friendly, generally smaller works. Materials are another big thing. I've gotten a lot of comments from non-knife people about the wood Delica versus this little guy right here. You take this out of your pocket, and people look at this and go, oh, cool, it's a weird version of what Grandpa had. Having the wood is a helpful thing. Traditionals are also, and you know, if it fits into what their archetype is. At some level, you know, what a traditional old school thing like Grandpa had is going to be less threatening always than, I don't know, your cold steel tie light number 6 here. Slight difference there. So, yeah, anyways, that's a great question there. Somebody just asked, what keychain knife do I like? The Quiet Carry... Oh, what the heck is that thing called? It's not the Strand. The Bandit? Yeah, I think it's the Bandit. That little tiny freaking dog tag size. That was the best keychain knife I've dealt with before. So, yeah, it's a great question. Steve Rasmussen asked, do you consider knives with the screws going right into the handle scales to always be ugly? Okay, this is an example of that. This knife has screws that go straight into the handle on the other side here. At some level, it's a little frightening because if those screws strip out, or more specifically, if the holes strip out, you're going to have a bad time. And the knife will not be salvageable, as opposed to if you've got like a Chicago screw or it's going into a backspacer. Like if I were to strip out the inside of this backspacer, I could email the Grimsmos and say, hey, guys, help me out here. And they could, in theory, send me a new one. Whereas, suppose on this guy, you might not be able to do that. You'd have to send it back to Rayot. This is a Liang Ma. Oh, come on. I just posted this on Instagram. Endeavor. There you go. Liang Ma Endeavor. Nice knife in a lot of ways. Very flicky. Pop it open using a little fuller thing. Some good, bad, ugly as always, but there you go. So that's a great question, but that's kind of where I land on that. It's not always ugly, but it's always something I'm not a huge thing in love with. Let's see here. Pilot Metropolitan. Sure, where is my Pilot Metropolitan? Come here, Pilot Metropolitan. Here it is. Using it to mark up a manuscript. Here you go. Pilot Metropolitan. This guy's a little weird. It's got a White Panther tiger print. A little bit of a Siegfried and Roy theme going on here, which no problem with that as long as it doesn't get mauled. But it's a nice pen. This one is particularly fine, but and I mean fine tip, not like it writes fine, although it writes fine too. There's a lot to love here. Pilot, by and large, tends to impress me in terms of fountain pens. But I got a full review coming up one of these days when I get around to filming it. So there you go. Great question. Let's see here. What kind of wallet do I carry? I carry this guy right here. Here, I'll swap some things around here, such that my information is no longer personal. There we go. See, it's a little 4-pocket little affair. One pocket, another. Very minimalist, very thin. Here, size comparison, Spyderco Delica. Relatively small. Thickness-wise, it's about as thick as your Delica, the biggest thing. And it tends to make things a little bit easier. Daigle Knives wants to see my credit card number. Sorry, buddy. No, thank you. Unless you want to make a payment, in which case, have at it. Let's see here. What are my thoughts on automatic knives? Jacob, I've talked about this a little bit before, but actually it changed because Michigan has, as of October 10th, I believe, automatic knives will become legal to own and carry in Michigan. So at that point, I'll pick up a couple of autos, I think. Maybe give them a try. Like ProTech, the Benchmade out the front is very interesting to me. There are some interesting autos out there in the world that I want to check out. I am limiting it to knives that include, that use actual fasteners. Rather than screw-you screws. So unfortunately, that puts Microtech completely out of the running. But I'm going to be looking at some other automatics out there in the world. The Hawk Deadlock, Joshua von Flier says, the Hawk Deadlock is something I am going to be pushing very hard. Like, I'm going to regularly be bothering Gavin Hawk about that. Like, dude, Deadlock me, damn it. It sounds wrong. Either way. So yeah, absolutely 100%. We'll try a couple of autos. That said, at a very real level, I've held them in the past, I've tried them in the past, and what is the difference between an automatic and this? How is that faster? How is that meaningfully? The only thing that an automatic really accomplishes for you with a modern folding knife, I mean, even compared to this, is that it makes it more illegal in more places. And so that's not really throwing me, it's not really bringing me joy. So yeah, but yeah, so that's my take on autos there. Rebus Win says, should a person carry 2 knives all the time because you have 2 hands? Not necessarily the approach I would be taking. I mean, no. Dual wielding is absolutely fine in Dungeons and Dragons, and Diablo 2 if you are the barbarian class. But in terms of actual pocket knives, no, probably not. I am not a dual wield sort of guy. I don't often, frankly, often enough I don't need one knife that 2 wouldn't help. That said, there are people who do that, particularly with like 2 different kinds of knife. One very small and one very large. Something like that. Liam Foley is asking repeatedly about a tool that I have never heard of. Sorry about that, Liam. But, yeah. But dual wielding can absolutely be fun. Dual espadas could be nice. And of course, you gotta do your dual watches. No? Actually, there are people who legitimately try and do that. Who was it? The general, I want to say it was Petraeus, the guy who was running Iraq for a while there. Dual-wielded watches. He had one set to local time and the other set to Washington time. Yeah, the same time zone on both. I just put these on. So anyways, yeah, that is a nice thing. Interestingly enough, my wrists are meaningfully differently sized. I cannot get this little guy on my other wrist, so I had to carefully under the table swap it for the Omega, which has the quick adjust on there to do that. So, oh god, a pocket watch and a wristwatch. That'd be crazy. Oh, hey, Jim. Sorry, just saw a buddy of mine come in there. So yeah, that is actually his watch right there. As is... Oh, come on now. Where's the other one? It's around here someplace. Oh, this little guy right here. This is a interesting little watch in that it uses tritium tubes. Let's see if I can get them to... They're not the brightest thing ever, but you can see them glowing in there. 6 o'clock, which doesn't help anything. But anyways, so there are a lot of really good stuff there. The Killer Clock asks, is that a cold steel on the table? Indeed, there are three cold steels on the table right now. This little tie light guy, the Little, and then this mini lawman here, which I've just gotten for review. So there you go. Cold Steel Finn Wolf. Interesting little knife here. Very, very wedgy up at the top there, but hey, whatever. Take on Nightcore flashlights. Never tried them. Sorry about that. If I looked at ball watches, yeah, Max Archer says, ball watches are interesting, actually. The same AD that I have locally who sold me my Omega is also a ball AD. Look, their style doesn't actually appeal to me all that much. It tends to be a little bit, I don't know, doesn't really, doesn't do me, for whatever reason. But I love very much the, pardon me, their stance on using tritium lube. The big difference, by the way, for those of you unfamiliar, is that tritium lube actually uses little gas tubes in there that will glow because there's a radioactive isotope in there that's emitting a little bit of energy, as opposed to conventional lube, which will need to be charged every so often by the sun or something. So yeah, Sir Galath asks for an opinion on the Citizen ProMaster diving. Yeah, it's fine. I would, if you've got the money, go up to the Signature, but there's a lot of love. There's a lot to love here right now. What about Rolex? So, Sid is asking me about Rolex. Rolex watches are, there's a lot of great there. 100%. For some reason, style-wise, Rolex doesn't tend to do it for me. The one that was most appealing to me, the Sea Dweller, which is in a lot of ways similar to the Planet Ocean, at least in Rolex's lineup. But the thing that really drew me to the Sea Dweller is the fact that it doesn't have the damn Cyclops, the little date magnifier. Because that thing drives me crazy. And unfortunately, they've just killed that because they've made the new Sea Dweller have the date Cyclops. And I get that that's kind of Rolex's shtick, but so for me personally, right now there's not actually a Rolex that, you know, even if the trade was unfair, I would keep this guy. You know, a GMT Master 2 would be great, but, you know, I love this little watch a lot. And so, I think Rolex has a lot to offer, but in many ways, Tudor, which is Tudor, which is a sister brand of Rolex, same company and whatnot, and is their kind of younger, hipper, crazier brand. Tudor appeals to me a little bit more. They've got more stuff that's, I don't know, up my alley. The Black Bay, Pelagos are both, and even like the North Flag are pretty excellent. Schwarzkopf, that's right. Thank you there, Jonathan. Yes, Norman Schwarzkopf was the two-watch sort of guy, as opposed to nitpicking Nick Shabazz. Slightly different thing there. Sorry, getting some water. Don't worry, it's not actually crazy fitness water. I just used the bottle. Let's see here. These are some very interesting questions, which I'm not answering. Yeah, Sid is pointing out the new Rolex movements are accurate to plus or minus 2 seconds a day, and that's a really good sort of thing. And I mean, I'm getting very, very good accuracy. This guy is on the wrist like 0.5 seconds a day, slow, and off the wrist 2 seconds a day fast if you leave it. I mean, you can get great accuracy from a lot of brands, but it is nice that they're really guaranteeing that. Let's see here. The OCD is pleased by the layout of the knives. Yeah, sorry, things are a little bit out of order, but yeah, I do my best to always arrange things. Tuda has the same movements. Well, not exactly there. Who was that? Somebody or another. Kim Jong-un, okay. You're a dog Korean dictator. Hey, welcome. Don't shoot missiles at people, please. Anyways, yeah, the thing is, Tudor uses Rolex-derived movements, but they're not the same. And in fact, historically, Tudor has been using off-the-shelf ETA movements in some of their watches, which drives a lot of purists a little bit nuts. So that's something to keep in mind. Aaron Stone asks, am I still using the Camelback bottle? Yeah, I am. It's at work at the moment, because generally speaking, I need water at work more often than at home. Because here I can just throw one of these in the fridge and get nice, cool condensation, full water going on. Because condensation's a thing, because Michigan's humid, because, oh, God, screw me. But anyways, yeah, great question. Anthem Opinion, got a review coming up, but I liked it enough to get it customized. Should tell you something. What do I think of Bomberg watches? Never heard of them, sorry. Thing is, there are about 1 million micro brands out there, and even more if you count people who, will take some guy will sit in his basement and design a watch and then send it to a factory in China who will throw a cheap quartz movement in. I mean, there are 1 million little brands like that. I don't know what Bomberg is, but it's hard to keep up with watch brands these days. If I ever had one of the springs break on a Benchmade, you're talking about the Omega springs. So this is not a good example because this has a different arrangement. The spring on this guy is, you can see here, it's a coil spring that's wrapped around the tube, as opposed to on the conventional Benchmades, which have the Omega spring. This little piece of wire there. I have only had one Omega spring break, and it was only one of the two, so it didn't really matter. But that was on a Benchmade Emissary. I had back when. Not a big fan of the Omega spring approach. This is definitely the better thing, and I hope Benchmade continues to use that in the future. And Aaron Stone, do not get into watches. Actually, everybody, do not get into watches. If you thought that the pocket knife game was a money trap, watches are 50 times worse. This is a $6,600 retail watch. This is mid-range to watch people. This is insanity. Do not get into watches. No. Bad plan. Brings me a lot of joy, but no. Bad plan. No. No, no, no. Freaking no. Watch world is something that's very hard to get into, but once you're in, you're never out. David B., yeah. That's pretty true. A bunch of people, other people are pointing out their crazy collections. Look, buddy, yeah, lots of zeros, says Jim. Yeah, absolutely 100%. I forget. Yeah, it's crazy. It's absolutely freaking crazy. Let's be real here. Archie Denis. Sorry, Denis. Well, it's spelled, in my defense, it's spelled D-E-N-I-S. How is that going to be pronounced? Oh, God, guys. All right, R.G. Dennis. Sorry about that, Dennis. Yeah, that makes complete and total sense. He says he's from Europe. Anyways, moving right along, ask about the Spider coefficient as a first choice. Moving along there. Yeah, the efficient is not a bad knife whatsoever. The Polestar is another decent choice for a budget Spyderco. That said, in a lot of those cases, you're not that far away in terms of price from your very basic Spyderco Delica model, and very often you're going to get better steel, better construction. So I would really recommend, if you're looking to save up for your first Spyderco, I would go the extra mile and do the Delica. Unless this is crazy more expensive where you're at in Europe there, Dennis, I would absolutely go with the Delica over the Efficient or the Halcyon? No, there's the Alcyon now, which sounds like an antidepressant, which is weird. This guy's about $60 US, but the Efficient, I think, is like 40. Thing is, you just get a major jump up there. So, Let's see here. Have I ever had a detent wear out, especially with super steels? I've had detents that have gotten noticeably weaker over time, where it's kind of rounding off a little bit. Who is that? Well, I mean, the Z-Hunter, clearly, but who the heck did that? One of my detents. Either way, well, you can see that the ball is flattening off. Practically speaking, that's not something you got to worry about in the long term, but this is a good argument for moving to ceramic detent balls, which are a great idea. Let's see here. What else we got here? A lot of things that I've already put out there. Okay, Benchmade 707 thoughts. It is discontinued. Yeah, it is. Where are you? Hold on. Come here. No, it's a cricket. No, come on. You're killing me over here, Benchmade. Here we go. Benchmade 707 sequel. This is a knife that I got to review here soon. I cannot believe that they killed this. There's a lot of good here, 100%. But unfortunately, they did it in. I think there's. I hope they bring this back under a different auspice or something to replace it. In many ways, though, the Valet could serve the same purpose, which is another great knife, although it's much more expensive. So the sequel is a great knife, 100%. I've looked at a direct drive Kinetic Seiko. I've looked at Kinetic Seikos. The problem with a kinetic movement, so a kinetic movement is, with a Quartz watch, there are a couple of ways you can drive things. You can just use a battery, and a lot of Quartz watches use batteries, like this little guy right here, or my Omega Aquaterra is using a battery. And the advantage to a battery is it's like 4 years, and you can get it running up again by putting a new battery in there. But the disadvantage to a battery is that you need to replace the battery every so often. And that takes a trip to a jeweler, or if you're brave, you can do it yourself, but you probably shouldn't be brave if it's waterproof, whatever. So that's one approach. And another is to use solar charging, where you're charging a capacitor that's inside the watch using the sun. And that effectively functions as a battery, and so you can top it off by putting it on the windowsill. The last approach, well, not the last, but another approach is Kinetic, where you have a little weight that spins around inside the watch that generates power. The problem with a Kinetic watch is that it is a moving part. You've just added a rotor to a watch that didn't otherwise need one. And so you need, Buddy Jim saying, yeah, Kinetics suck, no good way to charge except for wearing it. It requires a lot of activity, that's true. And so, yeah, you need the activity, and you've added a big moving part that's spinning around on bearings to a watch that otherwise didn't need it. And so I tend to advocate against Kinetic because solar is so damn good, and Kinetic is just weird. You've added a moving part, and it requires movement, and when you could just set this guy on the freaking windowsill and be good for months. So, there you go. Let's see here. Rexbo says, I hope that you consider your, rethink your view on custom knives. Says he'd love to hear my opinions on higher end stuff. Look, I mean, I've done a little. I'm sorry, I have to back up there. Main Dave said, tape the watch to a ceiling fan to charge. Unfortunately, that wouldn't work because the watch, the force is always going to be in one direction. Unless you. No, there may be an angle you can put it on there, but I think it would always just be at one side. Anyways, custom knives, honestly, I may still do a couple here and there, and in fact, I recently did take a quick look at a JG Scout, which came across my table as a part of a pass-around. And, you know, I did a quick review on it. Unfortunately, it was a little beat up by the end of the pass-around, so, but I'll play a little bit with them here and there, but I'm still feeling pretty good about that decision. Sorry about that there. Let's see here. Somebody's wanting me to acknowledge him. There you go. Have fun. Let's see here. Caleb Backus says, is that like a mechanical quartz hybrid? Kind of. The thing is, it is absolutely quartz through and through. A Kinetic watch is just using a rotor to charge a battery which runs a quartz movement. A true mechanical quartz hybrid is a spring drive watch, and that is something that you will see Grand Seiko does. They are the only people who do it. So that's a great point there. Sorry, I just looked at a comment there. Max, somebody or another, mentioned that there are many ways to power a Kinetic Seiko with repetitive motion. He is, of course, talking about repeatedly flicking your Benchmade. in and out, and that's a great approach. So, yeah, moving it right along there. Oh, advertisers forcing me from not saying the fun stuff, right? What are you doing? I'm flicking the Benchmade. Why do you ask? Let's see here. Southpaw, I've got a video on why I don't love fixed blades. One thing I'll highlight is that nickshabazz.com is now a thing. This is a website that is mine, and it has on it not much, but what it does have is a list of frequently asked questions, both about me as a human, about gear, about reviewing, and so some of them are, I'll explicitly answer questions like, why don't I review flicks blades, ballast songs, custom knives? Why don't you talk about Brand X? So I've tried to answer a lot of those questions there, and so that people who are new to the channel can find that. And so you might consider checking out that website. I don't, make any freaking money off of it or anything. It's just, it's now nickshabazz.com. I'm official, right? Yeah, still a jackass. Flicking the Benchmade. Oy, oy, oy. Oh, that's going to become a thing. I don't want it to become a thing, but it's going to become a thing. Just like Pocket Pecker, which is now apparently enshrined in the vocabulary, which I'm actually kind of proud of. So I did I did a knife gripe talking about pocket peckers. For those of you unfamiliar, a pocket pecker is a very large flipper tab sticking off the back of a knife. This isn't a particularly peckery, but it looks like a little woodpecker that's pecking on whatever's in your pocket. I said that in the Olamic 24/7 review, and I immediately walked it back, but then it's kept coming about, and now people are using that term. And if that is the one thing, like in talking about the review of Nick Shabazz, if I have accomplished nothing else on my deathbed, if I'm sitting there like, wow, that wasn't much of a life, I didn't get that much done. But if I sit back, and if Pocket Pecker becomes the official term for an overly prominent flipper tab, then I will have done something meaningful with my life. And I can keel on over there and, kick the bucket, and I'll be absolutely fine, if that's all I've done. So, yeah, there you go. Maybe someday my Wikipedia page will just be like Nick Shabazz coined the term Pocket Pecker, and that's fine. So, yeah, great question. Interesting. Looking at other things, live long and prosper. I'm doing my best here. I don't know why I'm being told to live long and prosper, but I certainly will. Pocket Pecker, I lived a good life, gasp. It's going to be like Citizen Kane, where I'm surrounded by a bunch of jackasses, and I roll over. I'm sorry, this is killing me. I roll over, I say exasperately, Pocket Pecker, and then I drop the Grimsmo Norseman out of my hand and keel over dead. And I'll spend the rest of the movie trying to figure out what that is. Okay, I'm sorry. That's way funnier to me than it should be. Oh, may I be around long enough to confuse an entire staff full of nursing home residents. Oh, that would be a great way to go. Oh, man. Anyways, moving along. Alrighty, moving along there, drop a Z Hunter. Ehoff says, who are you kidding? You drop a Z Hunter. That's true, let's drop the pretense here. Time for your meds, Nick, indeed. Oh, man. Spyderco cue ball. Look, it's a Japanese-made Spyderco. Unfortunately, that means that the value's not going to be great. And so it's not something that's super appealing to me. But that said, I'm sure it's going to be a fine knife. Check it out if you're interested, but it's not something I'm after. I generally prefer Spyderco's Taichung and US-made knives over the Japanese-made ones, except the FRN knives. Well, this is actually made in the US. This guy, like the Delica here. This guy as well. Those I prefer from Japan, but the Black G10 Japanese Spydercos don't tend to do it for me. But that's just me. Let's see here. You sharpen my knives to a single or double bevel. So, Charles Ryan, that's, I'm not quite sure where you're going with that, because there are two things you could mean there. So, a double bevel could mean, am I doing a V-shaped grind or a chisel grind, where there's a flat side of the thing and then then the grind comes to the other side. I would never do a chisel grind on a knife. That's not something that appeals to me particularly. But what you probably mean is a V grind with a micro bevel, so it looks more something like this, where you got a bigger edge and then a micro bevel, and that allows you to sharpen a little bit less often. Look, I don't tend to do micro bevels. Maybe I should be, but I don't know. I'm micro bevel agnostic, if you will. I don't feel like it makes a huge difference there. Oh yeah. So people are talking about fidget spinner knives that have a fidget spinners that have a knife built in. If I have played my cards right, so I get like probably 10 emails a day from random jackasses who want to send me stuff. Most often it is an email that is written in English, but I still need to run through Google Translate to understand. Where it's, like, we have a brand new brand making knives, Guangzhou Knife Concern. Please review auspicious new VG10 folding tool. And, I can't understand it. And I got nothing against, Chinese knife. But, guys, come on. I'm sorry. But anyway, so I get about 1 million of those emails. But I recently had somebody from a fidget spinner company email me and say, we want to send you our brand new fidget spinner pocket knife. And I gave them the full, disclaimer, like, send it along, do the good, great, bad, and the ugly. I might call it junk. They're like, yeah, no, go for it. Have fun. So I will hopefully be getting a fidget spinner knife one of these days, which I will be... Oh, I don't even know what I'm going to be. But yeah, I will make an exception to my no fidget spinners policy to that one. After the original there. Somebody's talking about the ZT562. Great freaking knife. Highly recommended. No, I'm Steven asked, do I still have the plastic Sebenza? No, that one went on home. That was a loner. That's a true relic. Hospitalized is what I will be. Could well be. But again, David, as I roll over dying, I'll just gasp pocket pecker. Just to screw with the nurse. A throwing star on bearings, yeah. Yeah, I'm really curious how that's going to go there. Let's see here. Oh, good Lord, Nick's assistant. So, okay, Nick's assistant is... Ugh. I haven't heard anything else from him, and I haven't heard from any other makers who got that email, but hopefully that's gone, and he's not doing there. Daniel J. DeSanto is asking whether I think Rey is a Skywalker. So, this is a reference to the Star Wars Force Awakens movie. So, guys, I'm going to let my nerd flag fly a little bit here. In case you guys haven't noticed, by every aspect of my being in the last 2 years, I'm a little bit of a nerd. It's a simple fact of life. I tried to avoid this at some point in time, but that's kind of like a prairie dog sitting there screaming at you and saying I'm not a prairie dog. Like, dude, you're a prairie dog. It's pretty obvious to everyone involved. So I'm a bit of a nerd. This is a true thing. And I gotta be honest, I am absolutely pissed that they completely abandoned the entire storyline coming out of the books there. No, the Star Wars books, some of them were terrible, but many of them were absolutely freaking excellent. I would be very happy to see a nice adaptation of the Thrawn trilogy. I would love to see Rogue Squadron as a thing. But the fact that they completely freaking give up on this entire massive canon, okay, lose the Yuuzhan Vong crap, sure, whatever. But no! And you throw out freaking... You do this with the movies? No! I'm sorry. Crap. So I am angry that they just lost the canon entirely. They needed to keep they had so much good material there, and they just ditched it for what? And they freaking kill off a main character in that for no damn good reason? For some freaking emo Jedi little piece of crap? Mara Jade, exactly. Mara Jade. Imagine Mara Jade, people. You could do so much Jaina. Jaina freaking Solo. No. I'm sorry. It's so good. But anyways, hey, I am completely a freaking nerd. Wow, guys. Alrighty. Daniel J. DeSanto says, Nick, this needs its own video. It does. So anyways, moving it right freaking along there. Yeah. I forget what the original question was, but I think it was whether What's-A-Face was a Skywalker. Maybe. Who knows? I just don't know. Daigle Knives says, Nick, I've seen you've gone to Blade in the past. Any plans for live recordings from the floor? So the thing is, Blade Show actually does have a policy against video recording if you are not media. And I have not been media in the past because, well, let's face it, I'm a jackass, not a media outlet. And so, yeah, I have not been able to do that because I didn't want to get kicked out for doing that. Some people were able to violate it, but, for me, it just didn't make sense to do that. But I am... There is a very, very high possibility that I will be going to SHOT Show and looking at knives and potentially doing something there because there I can, film and whatnot. And so going around to the production booths, that's very much still tentative, but I'm very much hoping to be there and to do that. Lawson Gill is pointing out that he enjoyed the Yuuzhan Vong storylines in the Star Wars Extended Universe book series. Yeah, they're not bad, certainly. And when that freaking moon fell, I was crying like a freaking baby. Let's be real here. Those of you who read the books, you know what I'm talking about. But still, oh God, I'm a little misty even thinking about it. But anyways, it was good there. But anyways, I'm hoping to be at SHOT. And there I'm hoping to do a little bit more in the way of videos. So, yeah, trying real hard not to spoiler alert the entire series. Read the damn books. Way better. Although Rogue One, I gotta say, wasn't bad. They could have done a lot worse than that. And the freaking Force Awakens wasn't bad. One interesting thing about the Last Jedi, that movie, the one that's coming up next, is if you look at it in Spanish, it's, I believe it's in Spanish, Los Últimos Jedi, which means they use the plural form, which means it is multiple Jedi. It's not just one Jedi, it's two or more, which is, okay, yeah, I may be a nerd, guys. I absolutely may be a nerd. It's yeah, it's a thing. That EDC freak is telling me to stop the Star Wars. Oh, that's No, buddy, come on. I got a nerd out here. Let's see here. The Killer Clock asks, have you got the triad lock that's overly stiff lately? Yeah, unfortunately a lot of them are. I mean, and they just have a lot of travel in them. This is a triad lock right here, and it is very, very stiff. So the spring, but again, that's part of what makes it super strong. I mean, that's what you pay when you buy the crazy strong lockup that they think you want. Wait, is it really that thin? Holy crap, that does get thin behind the edge there. But anyways, I mean, that's part of what you pay. But yeah, so Galef asks if I habla español. Sí, claro, hablo español. But yeah, definitely speaking the Spanish. Great language, Spanish. Absolute freaking gem. Although there were parts of it I could definitely do without. Subjunctive, no. I'm sorry, not a gem. It's useful, perhaps, but pain in my neck. David B's asking for Star Trek talk instead. Sorry, not my scene there, buddy. How come your Finn Wolf has different colors? No idea there. По-русски, да, claro. Wow, I moved into freaking Spanish. Yeah, я говорю по-русски. But anyways, moving that along. That's beside the point. Where do I recommend selling on the secondary market? Any forums that don't require a membership or a payment other than Reddit. Yeah, Blade Runner. That's some sci-fi that relates. Sean Griffin's asking that. So the thing is, payment is actually... No Japanese, sorry. Payment is actually a good thing, in my opinion. Yeah, it sucks to have to pay money to get on Blade forums and sell there. But the problem is, if you have a free site, anybody can make a brand new account and do it again and do it again and do it again. And so it's easier for a scammer to get on there. But the thing is, if every time you sign up for a new account, you need to pay $25, that's a disincentive for scamming. Somebody who, is just going to screw somebody over, probably isn't going to pay the money and then run away and do it. You're wasting cash to do it that way. So I actually like the fact that you have to pay a little bit of money to get onto Blade forums there. So, yeah, that's a very interesting sort of question. There are other places, Reddit's Knife Swap, although you don't have to pay there, but there's more of a reputational system over there. Let's see here. The extremely mediocre gamer wants to get into the Star Wars lore. He's read a couple of books. Where should you start? The Thrawn trilogy. It's the way to go. You hear Ewan McGregor said he would do an Obi-Wan movie. Oh, yeah. Oh, yes, I would do that. Getting some interesting other recommendation requests? No, thank you. No, my Rask came this color there, Frank. Very nice. How many knives do I currently own? Really, that your name? Loser? Okay, loser. And again, I called some guy Dinas, so I'm not batting 1,000 with names here today. I check my latest collection update video. That'll show you all the knives that I've got around there. See you later there, Grumplord. Thank you, Delica Aaron, for giving me $10. I appreciate that very much. That was kind of you. Yeah, sorry about that, RG. I know it's better. Spyderco Ethnic series, very interesting knives. I love the fact that they do them, even if they don't always appeal to me, because, you know, it's neat to see them. So, yeah. Somebody was just asking about the fiancée. She is good, indeed. Not quite dinner time yet. No, she's doing good, kicking ass, taking names, the usual. Grumplord, I don't even know what you're asking, so try again. Was the Delica one of those? Yes, I believe the Delica was an ethnic series. Not the Sabo. No, that was because that was Lacey Sabo. The Patata is ethnic series. Who else is that? The Zulu, I think. It's an interesting series. Check them out there. Daniel DeSanto's asking about the slow death of headphone jack and phones. Screw you! That is my opinion on taking the headphone jack away. Screw taking the headphone jack away. Headphone jack is like the one piece of freaking equipment in my entire freaking life that is always operable. A headphone jack with stereo always freaking works with stereo. Case freaking closed. There is zero reason to get rid of the headphone jack except screw you, I want to sell Bluetooth headphones. And given they sell decent Bluetooth headphones, have I really missed the headphone jack that much with the freaking AirPods? No, they're good. I like, but still, I work in audio. This is one freaking format that works, and you take it away. You bunch of jackasses, Apple. Come on. Wait, did I say that out loud? Yeah, little rant there. Jake from State Farm, yeah, I talked about Maximate earlier. Check that out afterwards. Mark Missore's asking how I feel about headphone jacks. I think I covered that one. Went away to make it waterproof? My ass. I mean, waterproof is a thing that you can do that. I mean, all you need for a headphone jack is a plug system. You can do that waterproof, people. That's their argument. Yeah, oh, it makes it thinner. Yeah, don't make it thinner. Make it have a battery life that freaking works and then keep the headphone jack. They're doing it to sell Bluetooth. That is it. There is zero reason otherwise. I'm sorry. They can be good, but you're doing it to sell me crap. Apple owns Beats, so you know what they're going to do? They're going to screw me by doing that. So anyways, yeah. Exactly. So, thoughts on XM18 after they made some changes. K-Shen, check out my review on Saturday. Talk about the XM18 then. Yes, JM Rouse, Apple does need to release an HD audio codec from Bluetooth. That's one of the biggest things. Right now, Android has, what the hell's that codec? I forget what it is. Either way, there's a higher quality thing for Bluetooth from Apple. Apple needs to support another one there. Life Gripe series, that would be great. 100%. What's the new Samsung Note? As long as it doesn't catch fire, that's fine. Look, I had Android for a while, but I went back. I don't still have the Citizen Perpetual Diver because I got this guy, so I don't need to. Water, again. Okay, now we're asking for a Blocker C4 review. Thoughts on the boom mess that non-audiophile headphones are. Look, not everybody needs sound quality. Everybody should get it, but that's terrible. Tomas Horvath asks, is there a system in my video releases? That's a great question. Kinda, yeah. I mean, I usually do a release on every Monday, so Monday I'll release something that doesn't have a disassembly. So it's usually a watch and maybe a pen or maybe a knife that just didn't have a disassembly. So I'll release those on every Monday. On Tuesday, a gripe goes live. So if you want to see some Nick on Tuesday, check out Knife Gripes on Knife News. On Thursday, I will do the disassembly for whatever video comes out on Saturday. And so if you see a disassembly on a Thursday, you know that in the next couple of days, you're going to see the real review. And then on Sunday lately, I've been doing, Saturday goes the review. Then Sunday, I've been doing talk pieces lately. I got one for this week that's going to go live. Those aren't always happening just because I run out of content, frankly. And I don't always post Sunday because I post enough already. But, yeah. Thomas Styro's asking what music I listen to. If you look in my playlist for the channel, I have an entire playlist of Nick's favorite music, where I put one song per author from some of my very favorite musicians. My fiancé should review the Nick. Oh, that'd be crazy. Samuel Burns says, I've watched your videos for nearly a year now. I'm your favorite reviewer. Keep doing what you're doing. Thank you, Samuel, so much. And he made a donation with that. Because apparently you can now make a donation in YouTube chat. I appreciate that so much, Samuel, both the support and the kind words. It's a great, I don't know, it's a great thing. Tarkinius Superbiss asks, would I ever... Speaking of bad names, the first time he came up there, I called him Tarkinius Superbus, like an idiot. It's a freaking Latin name, people. No problem, Sam. I'll call you whatever you want for $10. But anyways, whether I'll trade the Anthem, maybe someday, I don't know. I mean, my collection is very much survival of the fittest. It's a little heavy right now. I'm going to be honest. My collection, that is. And so I may need to lose some weight. I don't know that this is going to go, though. This is a really nice knife. But we'll find out. Haji Dennis says, I'm not the greatest with names, indeed. Yeah, between Marcin Slish, who is actually like Marcin Swish, apparently, something along those lines. Yeah. Not exactly a brilliant man, that's for sure. Can I open the Norseman with a thumb stud? Yeah. There you go, case closed. Ever buy a knife out of the back of a comic book? No, I did not. I'm not a big comic book guy. I've read comics, but I tend to do them on tablets and whatnot. Benchmade 710. I don't even remember which one that is at the moment, so yeah. J.M. Rouse asks, how weird is it to have so many people pop on to hear me ramble on live? There are currently 218 people in this chat room, according to the little thing I'm seeing up in the corner here. That blows my freaking mind. Absolutely 100%. Look, I'm really glad that you guys are finding some joy in this, and in listening to me rant about the, headphone jacks and Star Wars and pocket knives and whatnot, and talk about cheese smuggling. I'm thrilled to hear that, but it is very, very strange to think that right now I am talking to a very large room worth of people. I've given talks to bigger rooms before, so it's not particularly scary to me, but it is absolutely entertaining as heck. And it's a very strange way to do the... It's a very strange form of public speaking, 100%. Especially when I'm in the middle, I get loud bugs freaking trying to get in the middle of it. So, yeah. Anyways, great question there. Rebus Wind remembers when I had only 1,000 subs. So do I. Still blows me away on a regular basis. Either was that Peter Pavlovic? Either we're bored or you're interesting. I don't know which that is, but I'll take it. 710 is apparently this guy here. Yeah, so it is. McHenry Williams. This is a knife I can't wait to review, but I haven't had a chance to yet. This is one that was donated by a wonderful viewer, and I am going to review it and then sell it for charity on the Patreon. But it hasn't gotten the time yet, so I haven't gotten to it. But I am super looking forward to dealing with this. Guys, you're not being ignored. Realize that on my screen, I get like 4 total messages worth of history. So it's like, brr, brr, brr. It's like trying to drink from a freaking fire hose, guys, and I prefer a bottle of water. So, thank you for the virtual money there. This is a long username. Favorite charging cable, asked Tristan Heath. Yeah, sure. Right here. So I'm using my cell phone right now. I have actually become rather a fan of Anker, Anker. Look, this isn't like an official endorsement or anything, but I guess it kind of is. But I have become a fan of their stuff because it tends to be a little bit cheap relative to Apple for lightning cables and things like that. And I use them for chargers as well. I recently picked up the Anker rules. I could go to Anker management. But anyways, yeah, I've got a couple of Anker battery packs. I've got a big 20,000 one that I use when traveling, which will get you through an 18-hour flight on an iPad, no problem. And I recently picked up, this is kind of cool, it's a device that is a power brick, a USB charger, which has a battery built in. So you can plug it into the wall and charge your phone, or you can just plug your phone into the pack and charge it off the battery without the wall. And then when you're done to recharge it, you just plug it back into the wall. I've been pretty surprised by it. I got involved with them way back when, in the days of the Samsung Galaxy Nexus, for a huge freaking battery pack for a phone. For playing Ingress, it probably dates me at this point. Pokemon Go before it was a thing. But anyways, yeah. That's a, great question there. Sigurd Grondal asks, what would I attempt if I knew I couldn't fail? That's a really great question. I would probably do some crazy Nobel Prize winning, well, I can't get a Nobel, well, I guess but try do some Nobel Prize winning level research sort of thing, see if I can get a better job or something, but, I don't know. I'm not a big risk taker, so it's really hard for me to even think in that way. That's a really great question, though. I have no idea. Is that a steel wheel under the wristwatch? Absolutely. 100% blindfolded judo. Peter Pavlovic is asking whether I was the enlightened of the resistance in Ingress. I believe I went resistance. Let's see here. Do I actually review every knife that comes through? Yeah, I do, generally speaking. Sometimes I will make exceptions. There are knives where, for instance, I will get them and just realize either A, I have zero desire to review this. Sometimes it's just because, it is, I don't know. There were knives where it's just like, it's so a field of what I want to do. Like fixed blades. I can't review. I can't. I don't care. They're great tools, no objection. They're spectacular, but I don't give a damn about fixed blades. It's nothing personal. I'm not saying you shouldn't. I can't give a crap. Like, here is a crap, and here is me, and there's no giving. And so I can't do fixed blade reviews. It's just a fact. And sometimes it's just like a knife is a little broken, for instance. Like, it has a major issue with it, and I get in on loan, and so it's like I can't do a fair review because I don't know what's wrong with it, etc. So, yeah. And Killer Clock says you have to remember that Nick doesn't hard use knives. It's outside my field. Yeah, absolutely. I'm not going out there and batoning. I'm not hammering things into trees or anything like that. For me, hard use is serious hard breaking down popcorn. Maybe I want popcorn. Cardboard is what I want to say there. So, yeah, it's a great question, though. Samuel Burns, I actually have a whole video about swapping steel and ceramic. Check it out. It was a couple of Sundays ago. Is there good American cheese, says Tarquinius Superbus. So I am a cheese enthusiast. I don't mind American cheese, but it's not great. It's not something that's like, oh my God, yes. There are great cheeses in the world, and I don't know, like there's great cheddar cheese that is from America. Absolutely, Wisconsin's doing great work. But the thing is, American cheese, to me, I don't know. Not a cheese reviewer, though. Velveeta, hey, look, as much as I want to judge Velveeta, I eat it. Velveeta shells and cheese. So look, okay. The fiancé and I don't always see eye to eye on food. I am, as many of you may know, a vegetarian. That's not something I necessarily recommend, but it's certainly there. She is very much not. And so she will eat like a tube of meat. Like, I think she is actually out there preparing for herself some pork tenderloin or something. So I look at this and it's just like a meat tube. It's amorphous, it's crazy, I don't freaking get it. But that's okay, I don't need to get it. But then on my side, I will eat Velveeta shells and cheese. This is a substance where you get like a thing of little shell pasta, and then you get a packet full of liquid. Gel, something along those lines. A lot of people having issues with vegans in Vegas and autocorrect, which is great. What happens in vegans stays in vegans, people. Sorry. So I will eat Velveeta shells and cheese very happily. And in fact, it's something that I will regularly do on nights when she's working late or something like that. Because it's cheap and it's easy. And if I spend money on Velveeta shells and cheese, eat for $3, I can afford to buy an expensive freaking knife. So that's great. That's something nice. Night there, Grump Lord. But anyways, yeah, red pepper flakes is great. Also, smoked Hungarian paprika is great for your Velveeta shells and cheese. Which is funny, because you're adding more expensive and more fancy sauce than the entire rest of the meal. Or not sauce, but seasoning. So, yeah. Nani Bahra asks, on the KME system, which lapping film is suitable for a mirror polish? Do you need all of them? So, no, you don't need all of them. I'm trying to remember. In my video, I talk about, I think I went for, Look at my KME review. At the very end, I described the initial setup that I had. I've since picked up all of them, so I could do... But the thing is, you can't just go straight to a high-end lapping film without removing the scratches from the other ones. It's that's kind of an important detail, and so you need a progression, but you don't need to buy all of them 100%. Just look at my video, and that gives you all the information you need there. And you're welcome, Sir Galath. I do enjoy doing this. The random questions are a lot of fun. But the problem is, unfortunately, I've been talking for 90 minutes straight, and that's really kind of nuts. That's towards the end of lecture sort of territory, and, I think I actually do have to bail here. So I gotta go find something to cook for myself while the fiancé eats a meat tube, which, oh God, that sounds wrong. But anyways... So on that note, I am going to go on ahead and let you guys go. Ay, ay, ay. Night, everybody. Pocket Pecker.